Let's see a show of hands. How many of you work at a corporation today? Any hands? Okay. How many of you work at a big corporation? Loic, there's a pretty big sizable audience. And how many of you are building products or services to sell to those corporations? Many of the folks here. Well, I'm here to talk to you about what we're going to do. And I'm going to tell you 3 things today. The first thing I'm going to tell you is what happened in 2010 when it comes to social business. And I have original research. And if you want the slides, I've just put them on my blog a few minutes ago. You can download them from SlideShare immediately. The second thing I'm going to tell you is what's going to happen in this next year. I'm going to tell you where the money is. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're building product, and this is international data that I have, you need to understand where the money's going to be. And then finally, number 3, I'm going to give 6 recommendations to corporations on what you should do and how you should spend your investment in social business. Ready? Let's go. So what happened in 2010? Well, in our study, in our research study, we had a survey of 140 different companies. We interviewed 51 people, many of them actually in the role called the corporate social strategist. And we found out that most of the programs have only been formalized for 2 years, very early on. So I call the year of 2010 the year of social business formation. The business units were starting to assemble. Let me show you some data. In fact, we also found out that a majority of the business decision maker is in marketing and or corporate communications. Now, many of you, corporate communications may be in the marketing function. I broke it out because at the very large companies, it's often split into 2 different departments. So this is where the primary money is for social business. Now, over time, I think that's going to change. I think it's going to move to support. Then I think it's going to move to the product teams, and then also in the different geos and regions. Now, I want to tell you how actually business is formed around social business. In fact, in our research, we found that there's 5 different models. The first one is called centralized, and this is the centralized model. Let's look at decentralized. And this is when anybody in the company can roll out their own social media program. Now, the upside with this is it looks very authentic. But the downside is it's a real mess. Look at the dots are not connected to each other. Some dots are bigger than others. You end up giving your customers a bad experience. The next model is what we call centralized, where one group in your organization runs it. And typically, that's corporate communications. Now, the upside is you have control and consistency, but the downside is it may not look authentic to the market. Okay, next. Hub and spoke. This is a scalable formation because there's a small cross-functional team working together with different business units or product teams around the sides. The really mature companies or the larger corporations that may have other regions, they form in what we call the dandelion or multiple hub and spoke, this model here. Now, this last model I'm going to show you, I only found 2 companies that really do it. And we call this holistic or honeycomb. And in this particular formation, any employee can use social media, but they do it in a consistent, organized way. Look at the dots are all lined up and clean. And I've seen Best Buy, retailer in the United States, and Zappos form these ways. And the reason that these companies were able to do that is their executives know that they're actually in customer support. Now, you're probably wondering what companies, how are they formed? And here's what we found. A majority of companies today are formed in the hub and spoke formation. And you will find areas of budget on those dots right in the center of those spokes and then also around on the inside of the hub. Some corporations are moving to dandelion right now. And the second one is centralized. Okay, so what else happened in 2010? I'm going to tell you about the total amount of money spent. I'm going to talk to you about the team size and what was the organizational model. Now, you can see these columns. I actually separated into 3 columns. Beginner, intermediate called formalized, and mature/advanced. So the first one, these are companies that just got started. In fact, they only have 3 people in their team. And this is for large corporations. That's a very small group. In fact, their budget is tiny, 66,000 United States dollars. And in most cases, they're in centralized. Well, what about the middle one? Boom. The budget's ballooned up to $1 million for the entire enterprise, and they have a team of about 8.2. And they tend to be formalized in the hub and spoke formation. In fact, half of those companies are in there. Now, there's very few companies that we actually classify into this next particular area, and we call these mature or advanced. And they tend to be the large tech corporations that are multinational, and they have about 20 people, but they come from multiple parts of the company. Often it's not within one direct report. And they're also in hub and spoke. So that's a summary of what's happened in 2010. Now I'd like to tell you what's going to happen in the future. And that's my role as a researcher, as an industry analyst. 2011 is the year of social business integration. Integration is what these corporations told us that they're going to be doing. First of all, here's what they're going to do internally. They are struggling internally how to measure social media. So if you're a services agency or you're building a software platform, if you can help them measure, you will find revenues. In fact, we asked them, how do you measure? In most of the cases, they're using engagement data, fans, friends, retweets. That actually is not very helpful, so we don't encourage people to go there. So we asked also, what are you going to do in your external go-to market when it comes to your plans? And in most cases, corporations said they're going to focus on integrating social media with your website. Companies like Echo or Discuss or community platforms. Anybody who can embed social business right onto your corporate website, you could have a good year. This is what the data is showing, the tea leaves show.
Finally.
Now, this is the money slide. We asked them, out of the different ways you can spend money in social business, tell me about what areas you will spend. And this is adoption percent. So the top one is, in 2010, which is the blue lines, corporations said they're going to, 76% of the corporations are going to spend money on brand monitoring. The orange area is what they're going to increase in 2011. So take a look. All of the areas in social business are going up. Everything is moving up, even during a recession. But it's only moving up from 1 to 10, it's under 10 points, not even double-digit growth. We are having slow growth, but it's continual growth. Brand monitoring, training, staff, and advertising are the areas that we're seeing the most adoption. Now, what about the dollar amount? Okay, I'll show you right now. The biggest area of growth in 2011 is hiring people to run these programs at companies. So if you're looking for a job inside of a corporation and you have social media skills, this could be a good opportunity for you this year. The next one is, companies aren't really sure what to do with social media, so they're spending the money on advertising. And this is what we've seen typically through the traditional agencies. And then online communities. Check out traditional agencies, 104. And then boutique agencies. I know a lot of social media boutiques. They all came up to me the last few days. I know you're here. Your budgets are strong. And I'm going to show you in the next slide that it's actually going to look really good. Okay, so I did the same thing for maturity here. In this particular study, we segmented by the maturity of a company. So what do beginner, immature companies spend on? Staff, community, and traditional agencies. Because they're trying to get people on board, and they're trying to figure out how to make it scale, and they're leaning on their existing traditional partners to get this done. Now, anybody who's in the mid-range, they're also growing staff, it's nearly doubled. They're also spending on ad, and then also traditional agencies. For the few corporations that are advanced, we see a change up here. We're seeing a growth to the boutique agencies, a big jump up. $238,000 will be spent per corporation this year on boutique agencies, pushing the traditional agencies out of the top 5. You realize what this means. As more companies move to this level of maturity, we will see more funding go to the social media specialists, many of you who are in this crowd today. And of course, that means acquisitions.
He's busy.
The social media boutiques will be bought by the large integrated digital firms over the next few years. Okay, so that's the forecast of what's going to happen. But I didn't really tell you what to do. So I'm going to tell you what you should do. You should invest today in scalable social media programs. And in fact, there's 6 of them, and I'm going to go through them today. First one is hire correctly. I'm going to tell you how to integrate. 3, how to use advertising correctly. How to use advocates, systems to invest in, and then how to measure. Number 1, hire the right people. Don't hire social media gurus, ninjas, or samurais, or experts. Instead, Hire business program managers that think of social media as a program that they run with clear ROI. Hire business people first, and hire people with a lot of Twitter follows that brag about it second. Number 2, be pragmatic about integrating social media with your corporate website. Don't just put a follow me on Facebook or Twitter on your corporate homepage without thinking about it. In fact, any company who does that right now, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Why? You spent millions of dollars over the last few years getting people to come to your corporate website, and now you're launching TV ads saying go to facebook.com/brand? Well, Mark Zuckerberg thanks you. But you're doing yourself a disservice because you have not integrated social media to your own corporate website. So instead, take the social features that are in the corporate in social networks and embed them in your online corporate website. Don't just link away. Let the people start. So this experience comes both ways. This is a whole other framework. I'm not going to get into it now, but I've listed out the 8 stages of social media integration on your corporate website. There's a link on it. You can download it and find it. It's a blog post and a whole other speech that we could talk about. Number 3, if you're going to do advertising, please use the social graph. Don't just use banners and takeovers and skyscrapers. Get the most bang for your buck out of social media. So if somebody interacts with an ad, or likes an ad, or shares an ad, it triggers a viral loop, a term that we heard from Dave McClure, who's just up here. Use advertising that enacts word of mouth. I think Twitter's doing a good job. It's kind of a combination between earned and paid content. Word of mouth actually starts to happen even more efficiently. That is a wise use of your resources. Number 4, develop an unpaid army of advocates. In fact, I like what Microsoft has done with their MVP program. Did you know they have 4,000 MVPs, most valuable professionals, that are not paid any type of money? They're given access to trips and access to executives and products, and they go out there and they answer questions from other customers and they promote the Microsoft brand. That is a scalable program. That is scales. You do know that social media doesn't scale with corporations, right? One-on-one dialogue doesn't scale because you can never hire enough community managers to respond to your customers. Did you ever think about the fact that when we respond to angry customers in Twitter and we help them with their problems, we're actually teaching them when they want our help, the easiest way to get our help is to yell at their friends. We're teaching customers that. So we cannot scale. You must invest in these scalable programs. Speaking of scale, you need to invest in the right systems. Social CRM is connecting the social web with your existing customer databases. And also another area of growth in 2011 are the social media management systems. And there's a bunch of companies out there: CodeTweet, Hootsuite, Sprinkler, Objective Marketer, Expion, Spreadfast, and of course for the week's Seismic. These help you to manage hundreds of accounts, workflow, and across the globe. This is important for companies that have multiple touch points out there. And then finally, number 6, learn to measure right. And I'm here at the very end here. Remember that there's 3 types of ways you need to measure. There's 3 roles. You have executives, your business stakeholders, and community managers and agencies. The one thing that people do to mess up is they give engagement metrics to executives. Don't do that. Don't give executives fan followers and retweets. That's the worst thing you can do. Instead, give them business metrics: revenue, reputation, customer satisfaction. Understand that there's different metrics for different folks. So to summarize, 2010 was the era of foundational investments. In 2011, we're going to see measurement, integration, staffing, and advertising. I encourage you to invest in scalable social programs. Thank you. This has been an open research project. You can use this data as you will. I'm Jeremiah Owyang. Thank you.